Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My 34 female, life is falling apart. And it's all thanks to my husband. We had a perfect life. Both of us worked in the jobs we loved. We had a beautiful daughter, 10 female, and a healthy son, 5 male. When I was pregnant with our son, we both almost died due to complications. So before the birth and even afterwards, I didn't want to have S. Why would I? I almost died, and my body was in pain for months afterwards, even with strong medication. I thought my husband understood because he never pushed me for S or even asked. I thought it was because he understood my pain. But apparently, he was just getting it from somewhere else. A few months ago, we were visited by Child Protective Services. I was terrified at first, frantically thinking of what we did wrong with our children to cause a visit. But no, as it turns out, some woman I've never met before died in a car accident, leaving behind a daughter. And my husband's name was on the girl's birth certificate, and he was named in the woman's will as the father. I thought it was a mistake at first, until my husband told me the truth. As it turns out, while I was suffering my pregnancy and the after effects of almost dying, my husband would go to a woman he knew at work and get off with her. He said this as if he did me a favor. Well, as the CPS worker explained to us, my husband is her closest living relative that can care for her. The woman's family apparently wanted nothing to do with the poor little girl. When she asked us if we wanted to take her in, I said yes. Yes, I know this might be the true cause of all my issues. But my husband pawned that poor girl off to live with her single mother for 5 years. He doesn't get to pawn her away when she needs help. She's his responsibility, and now is ours. I told him I'll help take care of the necessary visits for wellness checks and help with whatever CPS wants us to do. All he had to do was explain everything to our children. The fact I'm saying this tells you what he did. Yes, nothing. We had to clean out a room and buy new furniture, and even looked for some toys. Our children go to a private school, so I picked up some more work hours in order to be able to afford her tuition. I was the one who had to tell our extended families the big change because he didn't want to do so. I did almost all the heavy lifting. So color me shocked when his daughter finally joins our family 2 weeks ago, and the first words out of our children's mouths was, "Who's that?" Yes, I was the one who had to tell our children's school, extended families, family doctors, and my workplace about my husband's affair and subsequent addition to our family. But he couldn't tell our children, being he was too ashamed to face them. So guess who was the one who had to explain they had a sister now, as I'm trying to settle this poor girl into her new home and room? And shocker, our children didn't take the news well, as it was happening right in front of them. My daughter was screaming while crying, causing my son and the little girl to cry. A situation that could have been avoided if my husband just did the one thing I asked of him and explained everything to them much sooner. It's been 2 weeks of her living with us, and the situation hasn't improved. My husband has not picked up the slack that comes with having a new addition to the family, so we're struggling right now to make ends meet. I feel embarrassed bringing all 3 children around for appointments and groceries, because the little girl is very much obviously not mine, and I can tell people are judging our family. My daughter is much moodier and less happy, and refuses to even acknowledge our newest addition to the family. Our son doesn't really understand what's going on, and it's causing even him to lash out. And I don't even know how to help the poor little girl, because I know that if I feel like my life is falling apart, she must feel even worse. I suggested family therapy, therapy for our children, even just marriage therapy so we can hopefully move past this and work together as a unit for all the children. He's refused everything, saying that he knows he'll be lectured by everyone when all he was doing was trying to help me. I just don't know how to fix this. Please help me. I don't want to divorce him because I just know that will make it worse for the kids. But that's the only option my family is telling me. Meanwhile, his family is begging me to make this work and to just look past it. Well, OP's husband sounds like a loser, and it sounds like OP is an amazing woman that deserves much better than him. Plus, he has the audacity to say he did it because he's trying to help OP? He completely takes no responsibility whatsoever. OP sounds like she's trying to look beyond her husband's infidelity and putting the needs of an innocent child first. A child who has lost her mother and effectively has no father or family. OP deserves better. And now let's hear the community's opinion. The kids need therapy. If he won't go, that should tell you a lot. He doesn't give a crap about any of you. And also, doing you a favor? What the actual duck? None of these kids asked for this. You didn't ask for this. He created all of this mess and won't help fix it. I'd be talking to an attorney second, but therapist first. Take your babies and go, OP. He can hire a sitter to care for his daughter. Your first priority has to be your kids, and your daughter sounds like she's not doing well. Find an apartment and separate your finances. If even after that he still won't do anything, which I suspect he won't, then what more proof do you need that he's a despicable loser? Go find an apartment, get your kids in therapy, and talk to an attorney. This marriage sounds long over. Quit setting yourself on fire to keep him warm. He certainly doesn't care about you. Tell his family your cowardly piece of crap husband is avoiding everything. He thinks that if he buries his idiotic head into the dirt, everything will resolve itself. Sadly, things are being resolved because he has you. You stepped up to the plate and handled everything. This allowed him to pass on his responsibilities to you. Tell him choices have consequences, and now he is afraid to get blamed for his choices. If he makes the choice to avoid his duties as a father and husband, then there will be further consequences. You haven't even gone after him for his affair. Did the little girl know that your husband is her father? Lastly, you did the right thing. You really do have a huge heart to accept her into your family. I really do hope you find a way to have her fit in and make things work, with or without your husband. Update. I'm sorry. You were all right. It was a lie. When all of you were pointing out how the kids' responses to youngest arriving didn't make sense, it made me realize how correct that is. They came home to a room all made up, and I made passing comments to them asking about how excited they were for youngest's arrival. They should have known about her. At this point, I decided to just ask my eldest daughter directly because she was still so upset about it, and I think subconsciously knew I wasn't going to get the truth from husband. So I went to her room while she was lying in bed and asked her. I told her that I asked her father to explain to the two of them what was going to happen. They saw her new room. I talked about her to them, so I don't understand my eldest's reaction. So yes, it turns out husband didn't tell them, and then me the truth. A surprise to no one, I'm figuring out. The story he told the kids was that youngest was a daughter of one of our friends, and we felt so bad we had to take her in. Nothing about her being their half-sister, or him having a daughter with another woman. Well, when she came home that day and the kids asked who she was, the pictures we were able to share of youngest she had braids in and wore much different clothing than when she arrived. It was my response to them that ruined his little lie. This is youngest's name, your half-sister, remember? Our son was too young to really get what it meant, but our daughter did. That's why she freaked out that day, not because of the new addition to the family, but because what the new addition meant. I apologized for causing her to freak out that day, for not sitting both her and her brother down for a real discussion over how they feel and to make sure their father did what he was supposed to do, and apologized for only talking to her now after she had a much-deserved reaction to it all. My daughter accepted the apology, and I asked her if that was why she was distant from the youngest. She told me that's part of it, and because word got out at her school about what the newest addition to our family going to the school meant, so now she's getting teased and picked on for having a father who cheated. It broke my heart realizing just how badly I messed up. By continuing to beg the spineless man they called a father to help them, and then allowing myself to get shut down, I was essentially allowing all the kids' needs to be ignored. I told daughter I'll sign her and her brother and sister up for therapy. Of course, the pathetic man tried to plead with me not to when I mentioned signing the kids up, but I told him to give it up already. All three children's lives have changed, and it will help them adjust with a professional to speak to. He's been grumbling and whining about it, but I don't care anymore. And this might cause many to be upset with me, but I'm in the process with my husband to have him transfer custody of youngest to me. I've grown to care for her, and as some comments in my last post have pointed out, once I do divorce him and leave with our kids, I don't doubt he'll treat her awfully and neglect her. He's been right on board, and it took some convincing, but his parents finally agreed to be witnesses. I got all the paperwork set up and scheduled an appointment with an attorney to help with anything else. Once that happens, I'll try to get everything I need in order to have a smoother divorce, and then subsequent move to be closer to my family. Almost 10 years ago, I was in high school. I had a terrible flu case and also felt the need to use a toilet. I was 16 at the time. Diarrhea with massive farts do not go well with a 16-year-old's reputation, and I was pretty sure my dad would understand the situation and my skipped classes. The only reason I was at school that day anyway and not at home in bed was because of an irrelevant event. So I decided to make a run for my uncle's house, which was 5 minutes away. I also had the keys to the place. I arrive, I open the door, and there she was, clear straight view from the hallway into the living room, on top of another dude, my aunt. I ran to the toilet, 20 minutes. I got out. He was gone. I told my aunt, who tried to talk to me, that I do not care. I will never talk about this. I left. Which brings us to last Christmas, 10 years later. My parents had a pretty ugly divorce during these years. My dad also had an alcohol addiction which influenced me a bit. My uncle grew colder, unbearable, and at times criticized us for not raising to his social standards. We had a family, close friends sort of gathering, where both my parents, my uncle, my aunt, and their 2 kids, my 21-year-old cousin and 9-year-old cousin were present, among other various people. Argument ensues. Insults are thrown. Apparently, my upbringing has been flawed, which led me to be inferior to my cousins. Mother was crying. Dad was yelling. Uncle was yelling. I am yelling at him, and he keeps calling me incompetent and other names. Aunt was smug. My older cousin has always been weird and annoying. The younger one is quite brilliant and funny, and I'm sure he'll have a wonderful future. I also like to talk to him about various things he likes and his hobbies. We would have made great friends. The uncle yells something of the sort, "At least if you hadn't divorced, maybe you could have made another one, more functional." Mother replies, "What's that supposed to mean?" Uncle, "Well, they say with the second one you cannot mess up. And since this one's a disaster, maybe another one would have been more decent." Me, "The only reason cousin 2 is not mentally challenged like cousin 1 is because he is not yours. But aunt can tell you more." Her face was mortified. She forgot I knew, or at least never expected it to ever come up again. I left. They argued awkwardly for 2 more minutes, and they also left. The other guests were gone by the time this whole chaos ensued. My mom and dad wanted to talk to me about it. I refused, and went home as well. In January, my uncle had a paternity test arranged after monstrous fights with my aunt. My cousin was not his child. He will never look at him the same again, and probably because of me, he will not have a proper father. My cousin no longer talks to me. Am I the a-hole? Edit. It was indeed, as some of you mentioned, a crap show. The reason my uncle has such adversity is because I was supposed to finish college and work for his firm, while I took another road in a different field. He felt betrayed by this. Also, my parents' divorce ruined some of his plans. There are 2 other stories. Also, I understand the issue with the R word. Where I am from, this is not seen as bad, but nonetheless, should not have used it. It's not okay. As many of you said, I will probably let time go by, and then try to get in touch with my cousin when things settle. It will be difficult, but it's something I need to fix. Everyone sucks here, because that was a real a-hole way of telling someone his kid isn't his. But I 100% don't blame you, and would have done the same. Fair play to you. Duck 'em. Not the a-hole. Your aunt made her bed. She can lie in it. There's no way he wouldn't find out eventually, though. Your aunt and her family couldn't honestly expect you to keep a secret for the rest of your life. Everyone sucks here. I feel for you. I really do. But that doesn't excuse what you did. I'm not even particularly worried about your aunt and uncle. They suck as people. But having something that crushing suddenly thrown down on you, your child isn't actually yours, has got to be awful. Worse, being an innocent bystander, your cousin, and now having to deal with the fallout of the collision of multiple incidents, none of which you had any participation or choice in. That's the worst part. Apologize to your cousin. Apologize to your uncle for using something so painful as ammo against him. Maybe apologize to your aunt for breaking your promise. Then, if I were you, I'd keep your interactions with the 2 of them limited to only what's necessary in order to maintain a relationship with your cousin. After your cousin is an adult and they can't stop you from maintaining the relationship, I'd say duck them and keep them out of your life altogether. They sound awful and not worth your time as humans, family or not. 15 months ago, on my 32nd birthday, I found out that my father had an affair 24 years prior, resulting in a daughter. He found out the day before telling me, on his birthday. Over the next year, my older brother and I decided to reach out to see if our half-sister would be open to connecting. She was, and we have since become decently close. My fiancé and I chat with her often. November of this year, my fiancé and I are getting married. We have decided to invite this new sister to our wedding, much to the dismay of my mother. To clarify, not to be part of the wedding party, but just to be present on that day. Some more background. The woman my father had an affair with was a previous co-worker of his from long ago. Apparently, work spouses. My mother was always jealous and suspicious of their relationship. Lo and behold, her suspicions came to fruition when the past affair was finally revealed. My parents are still together, for now, and seeking some means of counseling. My mother is still very upset by the whole situation and appears to want this whole thing swept under the rug. This is becoming a secret from family and friends, and the secret is weighing heavily upon my fiancé and I, whom would like to share with our closest friends. My mother has confessed to me that if my half-sister were present at our wedding, she and my half-sister would be the only two people there, and my mother would not be able to focus on anything else. My mother is also concerned about everyone else's reactions, even though I've expressed that if anyone asks, she can be a friend of my fiancé and mine. My mother has also alluded that my parents may not come to our wedding if we don't uninvite my half-sister. We have no interest in pushing this person into my parents' lives. Those parties have made it clear that they have no interest in the other, and they live on opposite sides of the country. But she does want to be a part of my brothers and mine. The secret will come out eventually anyway, as time goes on, as she'd be included in life events. Not the a-hole. Although I wanted to write not the a-hole at first, and I'm still debating. It's your wedding. Invite your sister. It's not her fault she's the product of an affair. She's a human being. She's a friend, and a family member of you, the bride. So please include her. But I also understand what your mom is saying. Even if you tell everyone she's just a friend of you two, and who would question that? Your mom will know who she is, and her experience of the wedding will be ruined. But that's not your fault. That's not your sister's fault. That's between her and your dad. Unfortunately, she will have to learn to accept that this human exists and is part of your lives. And it's going to be hard, and it might destroy their marriage. But that's what she will have to work through. This situation sucks. I'm so sorry for you to have to go through this, and I do feel for your mom. But I'm sticking with not the a-hole. But I disapprove of your dad's infidelity. But I would need to know more about what was going on 24 years ago before telling if he was an a-hole. Very gently, yes, the a-hole. You're putting the new shiny person, who is still relatively a stranger, over mom, who's been there all your life. You're asking your mom to share this important day with the living, breathing embodiment of the single most massive betrayal she's ever endured. In a more perfect world, everyone would suck it up and make the bridal couple happy. In the world you have, there's a huge wound in your parents' marriage, and you're holding salt. You're asking for monumental self-control on everyone's parts, that there not be one single "hi dad" or whisper from some relative who knows, and for your mom to put on an Academy Award-worthy performance that she isn't bothered and is serene. She's already aware she can't possibly earn such a statue, and plans not to show up and botch her lines. You haven't said, but would this be the first time newly discovered sister would be getting with the family at large? Because your heart is in the right place for wanting to include her. But sister would have to be old news not to cause a stir. And there has to be better times than the emotionally charged event of a wedding. Your parents' not being there will cause a stir. You think calling her a friend will keep the talk down, but it won't. People are just not good at keeping secrets. Hello, I will give an overview of my situation. I am currently 32. I married my husband when I was 19. We have 2 sons, 11 and 9. His mistress, let's call her Eva. Eva is my half-sister. We have the same mother, although we were never raised together. She dated my husband before me when she was 19. About half a year after they broke up, my husband started dating me. This should have been the first warning sign, but I was so in love with him that I turned a blind eye to it. His father didn't approve of Eva and pressured them to split up. Eva assured me when my husband and I began dating that she was completely over him. Although we were never very close, she was my maid of honor at my wedding. I did not know about my husband's affair with Eva until 7 years ago. Apparently, they had been having this affair for basically the entire length of our marriage. Of course, I was furious. Of course, I was devastated and betrayed. But I stayed for my sons. In hindsight, that was a tragic mistake. I should have gotten divorced the second I found out. Since then, my husband and I have grown apart to the point where we barely even see each other. Last week, however, he called me and told me that Eva was 2 months pregnant, and they are planning on keeping the child. My husband wants to get divorced right away, so he can marry her, and so the child will not be illegitimate. I suppose this is the excuse for a divorce that we both needed. But still, I can't help but feel used and disposable. How should I tell my sons? Their lives are going to be uprooted now. All that work I put in, staying in a broken marriage to make their lives easier, now that's all going out the roof. Another thing, Eva has reached out to me. After years of not speaking, she sent me an email yesterday detailing how sorry she is and wants to restart a relationship. I feel disgusted, but worst of all, my mother is on her side. Eva has always been her favorite, and now she is pressuring me to just go along with the divorce to make the process as quick as possible. Forget everything, except hiring the most ferocious divorce attorney you can find. The biggest, most aggressive a-hole ever. Forget the past. Cut contact with all of these people and protect your and your son's futures. Nothing else matters. Get the divorce. It might feel like he's winning, but he really isn't. Get a lawyer for the divorce. Don't trust your husband at all. Go after everything the law entitles you to. The classy way to deal with Eva would be to not respond at all. Obviously, you're not going to accept her apology or rebuild a relationship with her. My advice to you? Hire the most cutthroat divorce attorney you can find. Cut ties with your toxic family members, your mother, your soon-to-be ex, and your half-sister. All communication hereafter goes through your attorney. Change your cell phone number and provide said cell phone number only to your attorney. Do not move out of your home. It is your home, and if you leave, it can be considered as abandoning the property and, in worst-case scenario, lose your right to claiming it in the divorce. Above all else, listen to the instructions provided to you by your attorney. Do not be swayed by anything your soon-to-be ex or half-sister say. Fight for alimony. Fight for child support. Fight for the maximum you can receive for both, and do not settle for anything less. Your attorney will advise you of all these steps, and be prepared to listen. My parents got divorced midway through my childhood. I was 10 or 11 at the time, and for the next decade, I'm 24. He very rarely made a lasting appearance in my life. He would show up, drive me and my twin sister around the city, take us to restaurants, movies, etc. for about half a year, and then he'd disappear for an entire one. I remember not being too hurt about this, as I never developed such a close relationship with him, but my sister did. She'd constantly cry or throw tantrums, demand to my mom why she was keeping our father away, and for a long time, I also believed that she, my mom, was demonizing a perfectly normal person. Every time my dad visited, he'd badmouth my mother, call her a W or neglectful because she kept going out with her friends. My mom is 14 years younger than my dad, etc., while at the time saying that he loved her and he would never love anyone else but her. Years go by and I start seeing how much of a scumbag my father is. He never paid child support, and my mom, whom he'd forbid from going to college, only had a high school title and no work experience. She was very pretty, though, and always took care of her physical appearance. So she found my stepdad, who was very well off. My sister hated my stepdad, saw him as an intruder, etc. And every time my dad reappeared, he'd try to feed us both with hatred towards them, would try to get us to break them apart, and convince Mom that it was with him that she had to be. Now, my dad has a lot of illegitimate children. I have 4 other siblings, each with their own mother, and 2 who are 3 and 6 years younger. If you do the math, he had them while still married to my mom. And the biggest reason why she left him was because of the cheating. My sister just refused to believe my mom, despite all of the proof. And one day when my mom asked her for like $100 to buy something that she would pay back, my sister just blew up a crap storm about how my mom has never done anything herself, how she's always depending on men to do anything, and how much of a controlling bee she is. My mom only asks us to clean ourselves, literally. After that day, she left, and she's been living with my dad. My wedding invitations went out already, and seeing as I still have my sister in Facebook, she saw this and demanded to know why neither her or my dad were invited. I right up told her that I don't want them and their toxicity anywhere near me, or especially my mother. And now even my mom is telling me that I should just invite them. Forgive, not forget, she says. But I just can't. And the rest of my family are also looking at me as if I've done something heartless. You are the person getting married. You have a history with your sister and father where they have created bad blood between you. You don't have to invite them if you feel it would be uncomfortable. Now, it will cause drama, and it will likely be an issue for a bit. But honestly, you aren't heartless. You are trying to stop your day from being filled with potential unneeded family drama issues. Not the a-hole. Tell them to kick rocks. Your extended family doesn't sound very supportive either throughout the story. They can blow like the wind too.